I moved into this townhouse a couple weeks ago. It's been on the market for quite a while and I finally decided to buy it. I wanted to move out of my apartment and settle down in a decent place for once. My offer went through almost immediately, and within days I started packing, preparing to switch residences. I've never been the type to fill my home with various amenities, so the job was done fairly easily. Later, when I was transferring boxes from my moving van to the empty townhouse, I noticed my new neighbor watering her plants. She was a middle-aged woman with a garden hat, and she was smiling as she nurtured the several leafy pots on her front lawn. She suddenly noticed me and set down her watering can. She hurriedly scuttled towards me, her face illuminated with a wide, eager grin. "You must be the new neighbor," she said, reaching out a hand. I shook it promptly. "The name's Barb." "Finn," I replied. "I have something to give you, then." She fished around in her overall pockets until she took out a small, crumpled piece of paper. "Here," she said, handing it to me. "Instructions for feeding La Criatura. Start tomorrow. Today's deeds are fulfilled." "Pardon?" "Oh, were you not informed?" She sighed. "There's a creature that lives in the top of that house. Just follow the instructions, and you'll be fine." She pat me on the shoulder, making her way back to the flower pots. I froze for a moment, then slowly unfolded the piece of paper she'd handed me. In neat, loopy handwriting, there was a list of 3 instructions. 1. Do not look inside the attic, much less go inside it yourself. There are several other places you can use for storage instead, such as the closet by the front door. 2. 2 times a day, open the attic trapdoor a crack and leave a plate of food and a glass of milk inside. It doesn't matter what the food is, as long as it's something you would feed yourself. 3. When you hear scratching, tapping, whispering, or other noises during the night, ignore them. There is nothing else you can do. I scoffed, putting the piece of paper in my shirt pocket, continuing to unload the remaining boxes from the moving van. I figured I had better set up my bedroom, so I lugged an inflatable mattress and a few basic amenities onto the second floor. As I was hanging up clothes in my closet, I noticed a small anomaly on the ceiling. I took my phone out of my pocket and shone the flashlight above me. It was a trapdoor, the same color as the ceiling, presumably the one leading to the attic. It had a small knob on the side, as well as several phrases graffitied onto the surface. "Don't open me all the way. Proceed with caution. Something lives up here." All of the phrases were in different handwriting, and all of a sudden, I realized Barb was being completely serious. I chuckled. Of course it had to be the first house I moved into. The next morning I barely recalled what Barb had told me, but as I felt the small piece of paper still inside my pocket, I was reminded of the bizarre task I needed to complete. I decided to throw together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with some chips on the side and hope for the best. Of course, I filled a nice tall glass with milk as well. I set the plate and cup down on the floor of my closet as I hesitantly attempted to open the attic door. The knob twisted quite easily, and I made sure not to open it all the way. It somehow stayed in the same position, so I was able to place the dishes inside. I noticed there was an existing bowl and mug next to the 2 things I had just set down. Barb wasn't kidding. I grabbed them both and quickly closed the door. That night, I replaced the 2 now empty dishes with a fresh glass of milk and a microwave burrito with tater tots. I tried not to think about it too much. Every residence has its quirk. This would just have to become routine. Only the night after that did the noises start. I was nearly asleep when I heard several objects clatter above me. My eyes jolted open, and I sat upright. Looking around the room, nothing had changed. I realized it had come from the attic. Then came the scratching. Precise, long periods of scratching. Scratch. 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 Of course, I couldn't sleep. I knew I should have just brushed it off, but my survival instincts kept me awake. It would be hard to get used to this. Sometimes I would hear noises during the day, mostly when I was in my room. I'd be unpacking, or writing, or reading, and I'd hear a clatter, or a thump, or a bang. There was probably a large animal upstairs, and I don't know why we were encouraged to feed it, but I didn't want to ask any questions. The noises annoyed me when I was trying to fall asleep. There were times that I would sleep on the couch because I couldn't stand the incessant scratching. I would still feed whatever was up there every day, but I wished it would just leave. Eventually, I just plugged in a pair of headphones, turned the volume up all the way, and tried to ignore the noises that peeked through the calming music. The thing about headphones is they make you more paranoid than being able to hear what you're blocking out. Whenever the noise went away completely, I would get confused and pause the music, then regret it when I could hear the scratching again. I didn't think Barb was being serious in her note about the whispers, until I heard them myself. It's not like I could distinguish what they were saying, or if they were saying anything, but they were definitely there, and I could tell. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I could still hear the noises even when I was on the couch. The added paranoia of something living in the attic didn't help me either. When I did finally sleep, it was because I was visiting a friend who was in town for a bit. Eventually, I'd had enough. I needed to see what was living in the attic. I wasn't supposed to go in there myself, but nowhere in the instructions was it specified that I couldn't set up a camera. I stopped by the store and picked up a crappy night vision camera that would suffice. As I was about to walk into my house, I saw Barb again. She waved at me, and I stopped long enough for her to start walking towards me. "Hey, I have to tell you something important," she said. She stopped about a foot away from me. Her smile was gone, and her face was dead serious. "Don't fucking call the police. I'm not joking with you. Do not call the police." "What?" She motioned her finger across her neck, sticking her tongue out. "Don't call the police." Got it. I wasn't exactly sure what she meant, but I figured I'd listen, because the last thing she'd told me had been true. I set the camera next to the usual plate and cup I left in the attic. Now I would have to wait. I tried to sleep, and pretty much failed, as per usual. The noises kept me awake. I slept a few hours in the daytime, when the noises were less prominent. After that, it was time to replace the dishes in the attic and check out the camera footage. I was still groggy, but I had enough energy to find out what the hell was living in my house. I opened the attic trapdoor and grabbed the dishes, setting them on the ground as I reached for the camera next. A pale hand took hold of my arm. I let out the loudest, most blood-curdling scream I could ever imagine myself to create. I tried pulling away, but couldn't. I stared at the hand as I struggled to escape. As I collapsed onto the floor, something jumped down on top of me. Immediately, I felt cold metal pressed against my neck. I could barely see anything in the darkness, but I made out a pitch-white, malnourished face in front of me. It looked human. Just barely. A bare, bony humanoid was pinning me down with a knife against my throat. The camera was ripped out of my hands and thrown directly into the attic. I wasn't about to go back up and find it. I was scared to move in fear of the knife being drawn across my throat. "If you call the police, I'll make sure to kill you as slowly as I can. After I kill them, of course," said a hushed, raspy whisper. "Just follow the instructions and we'll both be fine." I could just barely make out a grin in the dim light. The knife slid lightly across my neck, not enough to stab me, but enough to leave a slight sliver. The thing, the human, pulled itself back into the attic and shut the door. It's been about 2 days since the incident happened, and I'm too terrified to do anything. I've stuck to the routine every day, and nothing else has happened yet, but I have the lingering assumption that the thing is going to do something to me. I don't know what to do. I wish I could get more information from Barb, but she hasn't been out of the house since.